Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Earwax. It's Colin, and today we're going to be going over my top 5 albums of 2002. So in 2002, I was 10 years old and just really starting to develop my music taste. And some of these albums are ones that I discovered around that time, and some of them are definitely not. I didn't quite have the emotional maturity to really grasp them at that time. I think this is probably one of my least diverse lists, just as far as genre goes. There's really only rock albums on here and only a few types of rock at that. But before we get into the honorable mentions, if you could please comment, subscribe, all that stuff helps out my channel a ton. And without further ado, let's get into the first honorable mention. So the first honorable mention is going to be Interpol's Turn on the Bright Lights. This is an album that I didn't get into until well into my young adulthood. I'd heard Interpol, I'd listened to Interpol before, but I never got super into them until my wife made me listen to this album front to back. And I'm very glad she did, because it's probably one of the best indie rock albums of all time. It's actually on my list of the top 5 greatest indie rock albums of all time. I'll put a link for that one in the description below. Next honorable mention is going to be Norma Jean's Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child. This is, again, not the Norma Jean, or not the album that got me into Norma Jean, because I didn't discover them until a couple years later in 2004, but it is my favorite Norma Jean album. Just a fantastic, real heavy, early metalcore album that I really, really like. To this day, it's still one of my all-time favorites. And if you like heavier music, you like metalcore, you really got to go back to the early 2000s. I mean, some of the best albums in the genre were coming out around this time, and I would certainly consider this one of them. And then my last honorable mention is going to be The Illusion of Safety by Thrice. I absolutely love Thrice. This is not usually near the top of my list as far as Thrice albums go, but it's still Thrice. It's still fantastic. I do really like their early years, just for how heavy they were. They were definitely more of a hardcore, almost leaning sort of metalcore, before they got to pure post-hardcore and more experimental with their later sounds. But yeah, still a fantastic album. I love just throwing this one on when I'm in some more of a nostalgic old school kind of mood, and this definitely scratches that itch. All right, with the honorable mentions out of the way, let's get in the top 5. Coming in at number 5 for me is going to be The Flaming Lips, Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots. I love this album. I think it's one of the best indie pop albums, just indie psych albums. It's definitely a unique experience. I think you got to listen to the thing front to back to really grasp how amazing it is, and just a whole. But you can definitely pick some of the singles out of it, and clearly one of their biggest singles of all time, and Do You Realize, is off of this album. So it's got a much more lasting impact than just the album itself. This also has a really soft spot in my heart, because I listened to this album a lot. I think a couple times in a row when I was painting my daughter's nursery. So I'll always associate it with that. And that alone just kind of puts it into one of my favorite albums of all time. Outside of the big track of Do You Realize, other standout tracks are Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, Part 1 and 2, as well as Ego Tripping at the Gates of Hell. It's just such a weird, crazy, funny album, but it's really well done musically. It's pretty beautiful too. So if you haven't listened to this one, definitely go check it out. Coming in at number 4 is going to be what I think is one of the best emo albums of all time, and that is Taking Back Sunday's Tell All Your Friends. This album is just, I mean, it's kind of the blueprint for a lot of what emo would become, especially moving away from the sort of Midwest emo sound of the mid to late 90s. And yeah, this is, I mean, again, I think there's probably other albums out there in emo that may be considered more influential, but not many. I know this is a lot of kids' gateway drug into emo music in general. Obviously, you've got the big single here in Cute Without the E. But then you've got, You're So Last Summer, and There's No I in Team. And again, it's such a fun album. It's raw, it's emotional, it's fast paced in certain parts, it's a little bit slower in certain parts. you know, it's got some punk feel to it, it's got some alt rock feel to it, but at the end of the day, it is just an unapologetically like straightforward emo album, and I love it. Coming in at number 3 is going to be one of my all-time favorite punk albums in the Distillers' Sing Sing Death House. I think this is one of not just like the best punk albums of the early 2000s. It's one of the best female-fronted punk albums of all time. I absolutely love Brody Dolly's voice, especially you get a lot of like hear a lot of the influence of like some of the great punk singers that came before her, but she still kind of did her own thing. She's got a very unique sound. The guitar work on this album is fast, it's well done. The drums are incredible. The songs are catchy as hell, while that without losing some of that like raw energy you want from a punk album. It also has probably like my favorite Distiller song on it, and I Am the Revenant. It's got City of Angels, which is absolutely fantastic. Sick of It All, the opening track, is fantastic as well. And yeah, it's just such a fun album. Again, high energy, in your face, no holds barred punk rock, and I love every minute of it. Coming in at number 2 is going to be another in your face punk album, but a little bit more on the melodic side, and that is going to be The Process of Belief by Bad Religion. Now, this is an unpopular opinion because I know there's a lot of their early work that people prefer or just think is objectively better, but this is my favorite Bad Religion album. It's the one that got me into them. It was the first one that I had heard of theirs. It also has Sorrow on it, which again, I think is one of the greatest punk songs, like melodic punk songs ever written. I gushed about this album on my top 5 punk albums. I'll include that in the link as well. And yeah, it's so good. It's so well written. It really showcases, I think, better than almost any of their like late era albums, how talented of songwriters all the guys are, especially Greg. I love this album so much. If you like punk, especially some of the more like melodic punk of the 2000s, like definitely will give this one a listen if you haven't already. I think most people, at least if you're into punk or Bad Religion, like you've listened to this album at least once, but go back and listen to it again because it's absolutely fantastic. Outside of obviously the biggest single in Sorrow, you've got great tracks like Broken, The Defense, and Supersonic. And yeah, just an absolute blast. I love this album so much. And coming in at number 1 is going to be Does This Look Infected by Sum 41. Now, I unapologetically love Sum 41 due to the Sum 41 patch that I have on my battle vest that I wear on here every now and then. Get a lot of comments just hating on them, which I never really understood. Like, I think the people that hate on Sum 41 only really know like All Killer No Filler, which is ironic considering that's like one of the best just like pop forward pop punk albums of all time. But they definitely evolved from that sound, especially on this album. I mean, This Look Infected is still pretty much straight up pop punk. They leaning a little bit heavier into the punk side of things on a couple tracks, while starting to showcase some of what they'd really develop on their next album, Chuck, with kind of like their thrash metal sound. I think the Hell Song, the opening track, it's one of the best like early 2000s pop punk anthems to ever come out. Obviously, I'm very biased because I love Sum 41, one of my favorite bands of all time. Very much because I got into them at this time, like as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, and they resonated so much with me then. And I still love listening to them, even though a lot of it is for like nostalgia's sake. Between Still Waiting, Thanks for Nothing, and ANIC, which is a fun sort of just like in your face, quick, fast punk track. It's a great album, and it's definitely, I think, one that if you don't like Sum 41 and you don't think that they're like a good band, like you haven't really spent the time to listen to, because there's some killer songwriting on this album. All right, so that's gonna be it for 2002. Those are my top 5 albums. Let me know what your top 5 are down in the comments. If you've made it this far, again, please comment, like, subscribe. All that stuff helps me out a ton. Check out my Patreon. I've got some exclusive videos up there. I've got some more stuff coming out soon. You can see some of like my early stuff as well. So if you want to see it before I got, you know, as slightly less bad as I am now at editing, it's still fun, like old school stuff to check out. Only $5 a month. And yeah, any amount you can contribute definitely helps and goes a long way for me doing like giveaways, mystery box openings, stuff like that. So thanks so much, guys, for watching. And as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.